Hello. Cathar Love 134. We think we know who we are. I think it's fairly true to say that as people mature, they hit that ripe old age of 50 and beyond, that we realise that at the time we thought we knew so much. Usually that period from around 20 to 30. And we realise that as far as life is concerned, we really didn't know too much. For those teenage years, really, our skulls were fairly empty. Henry Ford, at the age of 45, was a backyard mechanic. Yet he went on in his 50s, 60s to create an automobile empire. President Eisenhower, when he was 45, was a lowly major in the American Army. Yet he went on to lead the Allied forces in Europe against Germany, and later to become President of the United States of America. So these people at 45, when they were 60, realised they were just starting to mature. I remember I rejoined the army on a few occasions. I went to a war. When I came back, got out, another war started, rejoined again, and so forth, and went to a few more. I liked the military. I enjoyed soldiering. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I enjoyed it. One has to balance the nasty side with the wonderful times. And I thought that would be my career, but it wasn't. I became a jeweller. I was halfway between a jeweller and a sculptor, because I used to do a lot of sculptural pieces, mainly in silver, smaller pieces, and jewellery. And at that time I had a family and 2 children, and I thought, this is my career. And I was quite a successful jeweller, and then I got more into opals, and that's cutting opal. And so, although I was still a jeweller, I moved more into the opal trade, and that was great. But then I was told, or shown by my wife at the time, and there was a course for Chinese traditional medicine. And I remember when I was in Vietnam that I was pretty cook, and Chinese herbs helped me. But the big thing was, I was at a wedding and I saw Lieutenant Dan. He was married, and I met his father and his grandfather. I've mentioned this before. And the thing was, his father was slightly balding and he looked his age. But they introduced me to his grandfather, and his grandfather, he had black hair, jet black hair, not dyed. beautiful skin, and full of energy, slim, and he looks younger than his son, than Lieutenant Dan's father. His grandfather looked younger than Lieutenant Dan's father. Anyway, the thing was, I thought, wow, this guy knows something we don't. I said, what's he do? He said, oh, he's a local doctor. He's a Chinese herbalist. And then I thought, well, wow. I was really impressed. So when the time, when there was a chance to study it here in Sydney, I went on, and at night time and on weekends I studied Chinese medicine for something like 9 years. So I thought, this is my real purpose in life, is to heal people with Chinese medicine, those who are interested, of course, not everyone's interested. And so I'm trying to point out at all these different stages in life, this is, I thought, who I am, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And yet these changes came, and with these changes came more knowledge, certainly more knowledge about myself, my capabilities. But I really enjoyed being a part of the healing profession. But I had a real problem taking money because I did not feel comfortable taking money from people who are sick. It's like kicking a person when they're down in some ways. I mean, this is my problem. It's not other people's problem, but it was something that I still find difficult to deal with. And I don't mind taking money, but I don't like taking money from people who are down or they're sick or in a difficult situation. And so what I'm trying to say is, certainly in my case, at these various stages in life, I had a pretty fair idea of who I was and what I wanted and what my purpose was in life. But it kept on changing. And it's still changing. And the more we allow change to happen and the more open-minded we are, then the change is going to come, but change can come in more easily, or we can accept it more easily. But there's certainly one thing I've noticed. In my life, no matter what stage of it, I've seen that most people are ill at ease or in pain of one form or another. Now, I'm not saying those people don't have happy times, but most of the people I've met in my life at an inner level have not been happy people. They're not going around with a sad sack face and that, and they're often the life of the party. But when you talk to them and dig deeper, and you'll find there's problems within the family, or there's situations with themselves, and there's this within this personality, there's always this bowl of unhappiness. And it's, from what I can see, I haven't met anybody who's missed out on it. And the other night I like watching old movies, black and white, and sometimes Asian ones, Japanese or Chinese. And I saw this movie. It was called the Osaka Inn. Osaka being a big city in Japan. And it was based around about 1948. So that's 3 years after the Second World War. And it's a slow-moving movie. It's not fast. It's why you sit back, relax. But being slow-moving, it gives you a chance to get to know the characters involved, and also for the storyline to unfold naturally. And it's in really great black and white. The photography is great. It's black and white, has a certain drama, and that colour doesn't seem to be able to give us. But anyway, each person there had their own particular brand of sorrow. With one, this woman was a maid, and it was very hard to get jobs at the time, but the landlady just wouldn't let her go and see her son, who was 4 years old, and she hadn't seen her son for 3 years, and her parents were looking after her son. Another one was very poor, and she wanted to be an entertainer and a geisha and so forth, and she's going to remain looks like going to remain a maid. Another one. So, in any case, they each had their own. They were sad for those particular set of reasons. And the main actor was a person who, I suppose he was a bit of a philosopher, because he looked around and he could see everybody needed, virtually no one had money. I mean, lots of people starved at that particular time. And the black market was vast and huge. I was over there in '52, 4 years after this particular period. So I know a lot of the circumstances, and so it still resonated with me in my memories. But he had to leave Osaka and return to Tokyo, where he came from originally, for business. And his friends there, he had three quite close friends that he'd come there, and he invited them to dine with him before he left. And they did, and he knew them, and he knew their story and their sadness and the problems in their lives that they had, and of course he had his own to deal with as well. But he said something, and he said, surely we are mature enough that we can stand back and laugh at our own sadness. That we each had enough self-respect that we could stand back and look at ourselves and laugh at our sadness. And it struck home with everybody there, because they all had their story, and that was it, and we just have to deal with it. Endure is probably a good word, because sometimes we've got no choice. If you've got a toothache and you're still just an hour or two before you get to the dentist, you just have to endure the pain. So sometimes there's nothing for it but to endure the situation. So it seems to me, at my age, looking back, that of all the people I've known, I can't say I've met a happy person in my life. I've met people who've been not just happy, but ecstatically happy for periods. But the people I really got to know and know over the years, they've all had that bowl of sorrow, that bowl of sadness within them for some reason. Often it might be a death in the family, or whatever it is, or they didn't reach the position that they wanted to. Often it's to do with family and loss, or they're not realising their ambition or their goals. And so, to me, happiness will come and happiness will go. I don't worry too much about it. It's like an emotion. It's like sadness. Sadness will come and sadness will go. Even anger at times. You get angry, but that'll come and that'll go. But the thing is I feel, is to be able to create within this chaos and chaotic times, that no matter what time you're in, there's always be chaos and horror and things going on around you. That's not going to change. It will vary from place to place and country to country and so forth, and degree to degree, but it's always there somewhere in the world. But what we can do is that we can, and each person obviously has their own journey and their own way of doing this, but we need to get this inner peace, inner joy. Now if we can gain that, this is something we can carry with us every day. So something happens, wow, isn't that great? Picked up $10,000 or whatever it is. Or something terrible happens, a really good friend dies. Oh, you're going to miss that friend. So this is going to happen, and these things do happen. But what happens, it doesn't affect. We need to be at that stage, I feel, where we carry this inner peace, this inner tranquility, this inner joy. And that's something that we can, each of us, it's a gift that each of us has, but it's a gift that not many of us have attained. I believe I've attained it to some degree. And, of course, I'm invariably spruiking on about the Gnostic Catharism. But this was something that I sought after about myself well before I ever knew anything about Catharism. But Catharism is like the cream on the cake. The Cathars, they were wise. I mean, there's lots of things about Catharism that this wasn't correct, wasn't right. It was quite religious, and rather than being universal, it was very similar in many ways to the Catholic Church. A lot of their prayers were very similar. They read the Gospels and so forth, and of course now Catharism is universal, unconditional, and it doesn't matter. It's got nothing to do with any particular religion. It's neither for them nor against them. It's about how you how you are getting on, and your personal spiritual and mystical journey. But Catharism helped because it got to the core of things, and it's really about, I've meditated for many years, but it's about turning inwards and searching for that inner light that we all have within us. Searching for that stillness and peace of mind that we all have within us, but we have to seek it out. So in that way, Catharism is great. And the other thing is that Catharism, like Buddhism, it says that one of the major problems and causes of unhappiness, sadness, is attachment and desire. And this is somewhat misunderstood. I'm talking now from a Cathar point of view, as was told to me by Henri de Nemours. It's in the Codex and in the Dialogues, those books. He said, there's nothing wrong with wanting anything. You're walking, you want a motorbike, or you want a car. There's nothing wrong with that. You can want 2 cars, you can want whatever you like. You'd like a beautiful home. You'd like to put your kids through university. There's nothing wrong with wanting anything. That's natural. But if one's desire for something, and one can desire something and be attached to it, and one can want something or desire it and not be attached. So if for one reason or another a nice car came along, that's great. If it didn't, that's just as great. You're looking for your ideal partner and she comes along, that's great. You may not get your ideal partner, you got less, but this is the situation you have at the moment. So this is how we'll deal with it. So the point is as much as we can to become detached from attachments and desires. So if we have them, that's great, and use them and enjoy them. But if we don't have them, it doesn't make any big, there's no fuss, it doesn't make any great deal to our lives. And the other thing is that I've noticed, and certainly in regards myself, the more I back off, the more I just, this is the situation at the moment, this is how I'll flow at the moment. Things are difficult, then okay, maybe people are making it difficult for me, well I might make it a bit difficult for them, whatever. I never throw the first punch, but I'm not a pacifist, and you know, if the first punch arrives, well the second punch might come from me. But this is automatic, you know, not born saints, we've got natural, we have our natural emotions and our natural reactions. But when it's all settled down, the dust has settled down, then okay, you used to realise you have a bit of anger within you, whatever. So you're gentle on yourself. And the thing is, forgive the other person, don't let it get at you and get in under your skin. So it's backing away from things and allowing things, because things are going to happen, and it's by allowing those things, and as much as we can, to flow as much as we can with the moment. And when it's past, it's past. And the future hasn't arrived, so we really only have this what's happening at this moment, and that's all we should be dealing with and thinking about and giving it our 100%. That doesn't mean we're not thinking about the future or working towards the future. That's fine, because this as much as we can be detached from things, it seems to work. It's certainly, the more we can go with the flow, this is the way it is at the moment, we're travelling, let's enjoy that travelling. The more we can aspire, or the more we can gain in a peace, in a tranquility, the better it is for ourselves. But to gain that inner peace and inner tranquility, the trick of it, there is a trick of it, and Buddhism and Catharism say, look, yeah, really, to get right down to the nub of it, the world is an illusion. We can feel and think, and that's solid, but it's illusory, it's illusion. And in fact, in quantum physics, we know, and Niels Bohr, who organised the theory of quantum physics, and Einstein was really not happy with quantum physics or different aspects of it, and they talked about it for 20 years. But we wouldn't have computers and our mobile phones without quantum physics and how electrons react. But the thing that really gets people is the fact that electrons are either non-existent or non-reactive, just sitting there, unless there is a reaction or an observer. So at the moment, you're observing me, or whatever it is, it's real, but what you don't see, there's nothing there. It's just an illusion. The whole world it's a set of electrons. This is your world, and what you observe, that's the world. But it's only what you observe that manifests itself as being physical. It's a crazy, crazy thing. And Einstein, even till the day he died, he could understand it, but he didn't feel right about it. But this is where science and philosophy seems to collide, because the Cathar say, ultimately, the world is an illusion. The Buddhists also say. So here's quantum physics, the latest, saying, basically that's it. And what also they discovered with quantum physics is not only if you're looking at an electron microscope and you're observing it, then this is what happens. But they also noticed that how you feel also altered the effect or the probabilities of how those electrons would react. So, and as Henri Navarre says, we create our own future realities. We create our own future realities by what we do and say and think today. So if today, the way you speak, what you do and so forth, and it's with happiness or joy and tranquility and you keep the drama down as minimum or no drama at all, you're creating a better future for tomorrow and the next week. But if your day is filled with anger and jealousy and drama and everything's you make a mountain out of a molehill, you're already creating a future reality. And your future reality might consist of like something like ulcers. You've made people upset and they might want to get back at you for upsetting them and so forth. So what we do and say and think today is already creating our future realities, which ties in very much with the quantum physics or aspects of quantum physics. So we think we know who we are. We can now even get our DNA. Where do we come from? But that's our body. Our body has got aspects of African DNA, Scandinavian DNA, Asian DNA, whatever it is. That's fine, but that's our body. But really, we are the product of our previous reincarnations. And for anybody who is on the journey, and most of us are, especially if we get a little bit older, of self-discovery as to who we really are, and if we're taking our spirituality seriously, then there's two things that we can do. Not easy to do either in some cases. One is that we find a really good spirit medium who's not a fraud, not easy to find. But the other thing is that what we can do is that we can do a past life regression. And if there's some aspect of your character, in my case, I thought at one stage I was born angry because I get into an argument very, very easily, get into a fight even easier, because this anger would shoot up and then come out. So when I had a chance to do a past life regression, and I'm going back now like something like 35 years, and I won't go into the details, but basically I was a Viking lad, and there was a shaman, so it was before they became Christians, and I'd killed someone in a fight, and they'd had enough of me, and I can remember my mother pleading, leave him here, don't, because they wanted to execute me. So they decided that they would exile me, and that I could never again rejoin the clan or the town. If they saw me, they'd kill me. So there I was on the outside, boiling with anger, looking at my tribe, my family and so forth, and to the end of my days at that time, I just had this anger seething within me, and it would appear that I carried that over into successive lifetimes. But the fact that you know what it is something like, if a doctor can say, you have this particular situation, and that we know for sure you've got that, well, now we can do something about it. But when you don't know, so this past life regression, it can be a major factor. And the other thing is, when you have a past life regression, you know more than anybody that was your past life. And because you're there, you're seeing it, and you're relating to it. So this is a major, something we have in this day and age that wasn't available for us 30, 40, 50 years ago. But it is now, and there are competent hypnotists worldwide. So that's something, if one is really searching out one's spiritual base, this is something that we can do. Does it always work? No. The last time I did it, I went to the hypnotist, I paid out, I had a test, and she said, oh, she should be fine. I paid out the $350 and so forth. It didn't work. And yet I've had past life regressions where it was fine and it opened up the world to me. But on my last occasion, no, maybe whatever the reason, but it didn't work. So I'm not guaranteeing you success, but it's an avenue that is open that will allow you to discover more about yourself and find out really who we are, because we think we know who we are, but as we get older we realise we weren't exactly right with that. Bye for now. Talk to you then.